Good morning, friends. Today is our class on fundamental duties of Indian citizens. So I hope you are revising your previous classes, you are understanding it, and you're getting a grasp on it. Today we are going to learn about the fundamental duties. We have already covered fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, and today we will complete the fundamental duties of Indian citizen. So let's start. First of all, one should know what are fundamental duties. We read about the fundamental rights in which we had some claims against the state had to do something for us. Now in the fundamental duties, it's the duty of us, we have to do something for the nation, because you cannot just enjoy rights and have no obligation at all. So fundamental duties are defined as the moral obligations, they are moral obligations for all citizens to help promote a spirit of patriotism. You are a citizen of India, you should be patriot about it, and then to uphold the unity of the nation. Unity of India should be upheld. Second thing is these duties set in part 4a of the constitution. What else is in part 4? If you remember, part 4 has DPSPs, directive principles of state policy. If you are revising, you may remember it. And in part 4a, these are two separate things. Part 4 has DPSP, part 4a have FDs, fundamental duties, and they're held by the Supreme Court to be obligatory for all citizens. Just like rights are given to everyone, fundamental duties are obligatory for everyone as well. Everyone has to abide by certain rules, certain obligatory duties. Now, first of all, you should understand one thing, that the fundamental duties were not part of the original constitution as it was made in the 1950. It was enforced in 1950. It was not part of the original constitution. They were enacted later on. They were amended. They were added to the constitution in 1976. You can write this down in your copy if you want to. It's very important to mention this, that in the our constitution framers, while they were writing the original constitution, they did not mention any fundamental duties. They gave us rights, but there were no duties mentioned. But in 1976, by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution, these duties were added, and they are based on the recommendation of Sound Singh Committee. Okay, remember that name as well. And they were added. First, there were 10 added, then one more added later on, the 11th one. So yes, that is one thing about them. Now we are going to go through every one of them and going to learn what they actually are. They're just ideals, they are the basic things. Some of them you already know. Actually, you will know all of them. They are basic, they happen every day, and you hear about them in the TV or in newspaper, and everything that around you goes on. You get an idea of them, but you don't really have somehow studied them yet with this conscience that these are fundamental duties. So today we are going to go through one by one all of them. Now let's start. First of all, to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. Everybody knows this, right? National anthem, when there is national anthem playing, you're supposed to stand up and supposed to give full respect. You have to respect your national flag. The same things are written here. You have to abide by the constitution. Constitution says something, you cannot deny it. Its ideals and institutions, you have to respect the institutions. Like there is parliament, you have to respect the parliament. You cannot just do anything about the parliament or say something derogatory. Next is to cherish and follow noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Freedom is something that was not a free gift to India. Our forefathers worked hard for it, and we have to cherish those noble ideas. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. Is that something difficult to remember? I think you already know this, and you have this feeling that okay, this is so important. Unity of India, integrity of India. Sovereignty means that India is supreme. Okay, and your alliance is to India, not any other foreign power. So okay, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. If there is an emergency situation, you're called upon to serve in the army or some other matter, you have to go there. You have to serve your country. You have to defend your country. That's your duty. I mean, who will survive if India dies? This was said by Jawaharlal Nehru actually, that if there is no India, there will be no Indians. And in order to live, we first protect India as well. Next is number 5, to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood among all people of India, transcending religions, linguistic, regional, sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Important thing here is that we all are aware of this fact that India is a very diverse country. We have all sort of religions. We are actually birthplace of multiple religions. Linguistic, there we have 22 constitutional languages, and there are, and you can just not count how many languages there actually are in India, and other sects as well. So these diversities can lead to a lot of you know divergence as well. We can get divided, but we cannot let that happen. It happened to us about 200 years ago when the British came and they divided us multiple times. But we cannot let that happen again. We have to make sure that all of us together stay, and when we stay together, we stay strong. So, and the next thing is to renounce the practices derogatory to the dignity of women. This is a very important point here, because the dignity of women is equal to the real state of law of a state. If the women, if the dignity of the women is protected in the state, that means their state is doing really well. And in India, in the ancient time, there was a lot of kind of traditions like bad rituals like sati birtha and all that. So and this thinking mindset of people to keep the women inside of the four walls, all those kind of things, and like parda partha, that tradition. And we have had a lot of social religious leaders who actually try to somehow get us out of all those rituals. Like, if you understand, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, he worked so hard against sati partha, and he actually got a law passed against it. So it is our duty to renounce such practices that are derogatory to the dignity of women. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. The same thing again, our culture is composite, we are a diverse country, and well, if there was only one kind of color, one kind of religion, one kind of caste, one kind of language, what kind of cloth everyone would wear, there is only one color, let's believe there is only one, a white color, everything is white. What is the fun in that? Fun is with all kind of colors, all kind of religions, all kind of festivals, all kind of different kind of things that we get to enjoy, and that should be taken as a rich heritage, that should be taken as a good point. Because we have a diverse society, that should not be a weak point, that should be a strength. This is what they're trying to say, and we should save and we should preserve and value our strength. Next is to protect and improve the natural environment. Okay, natural environment, climate change is a real thing right now. So including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. I don't think there is anything to explain there. We all understand the importance of environment. We want to breathe, we want to take breathing in a good air, so we have to make sure that we plant a lot of trees and we don't cut trees, and we try to control pollution and all that, because after all the pollution level are only going to affect us. So we have to make sure that the environment of our country stays clean as possible, and that is also your duty. Next thing is to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. You cannot just blindly believe in something. Okay, this is, just try to get this immense importance of this point. Point number 8. There, this is your duty to have a scientific temper. You have to reason. You have to think about things. You cannot just blindly believe in anything and just run that any kind of race without even knowing what are the points here. You have to have some kind of scientific temper. If there is something happening, you have to have this spirit of inquiry. Like, you have to look for what are the causes behind this thing. You cannot just believe any kind of superstition. Okay, and reform. If you find out that something that is wrong and that is baseless, there is no reason, then you should try and reform it. Okay, that is your duty. You have to make sure of that. Next is to safeguard public property and to observe wildland. I think you already know this. Public property belongs to all of us, so we have to make sure that it's safe. And the violence against public property, or just violence in general, is bad for the nation. We have to make sure that we do not commit such things. Okay, number 10 is to strive toward the excellence in sphere of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of individual achievement. If every person, every Indian strive towards excellence, individual level and collective level, then the nation will get to the top itself. I mean, when we're talking about the nation, we're talking about the people of the nation in reality, because we have all kind of resources, but the most important resource is the human resources, the citizen of the country. And when they utilize all of the resources and they work for the resources and they strive for excellence and they make progress. When Indians make progress, then India makes progress. This is what they're trying to say, that you have to make progress in your life, because in a way you are actually making you are actually helping India develop. Okay. And the last one, this was added later on. This is not based on the recommendation of Sound Income Hadi. Who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, ward between the age of 6 and 14? Okay, forget this. The thing is that a parent or a guardian, okay, he has to provide opportunities for education to his children. A nation's future lies in its classroom. Okay, and first 5 to 6 years, those are very important years, because at that time a child learning new things. Its brain is developing rapidly. It's learning new thing, and what kind of environment it gets, what kind of education it gets at that early stage is going to be very, very helpful in its remaining life and ongoing whatever it does in future. So those years are very important, and that's why this is duty of a parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, as the case may be, or ward. You know, uh, child and ward, just you understand, child ward means just someone who is dependent on you. Okay, it may not be your biological son or daughter, but that person is a child that is somehow dependent on you. You understand? It could be a little brother. So next thing, between the age of 6 and 14, from 6 to 14, okay, those early years, first 6 years, very important. And those first 6 years are actually our fundamental right too. This is the amazing thing about this 11th duty, is this is not only a fundamental duty, this is also a fundamental right. From 0 to 6, it's a fundamental right. And from 6 to 14, uh, till high school, I think, in 14, till the age of 14, you get to high school. Till that education, it is the duty of a person, a parent, to make sure that his children goes to school, because when they get educated, the nation gets educated. When they get educated, they get great jobs, they make excellence in their life, the nation develops. This is the whole basic idea behind it. So importance of fundamental duties, first of all, they are helpful in enjoyment of right. If you're not educated, if you're not living in a good environment, if you're not cherishing the noble ideas, then how are you going to enjoy the rest of your fundamental rights? So first important thing is they are helpful enjoyment of rights. Create sense of duty. Okay, we get something, get an idea of duty that we have to follow, we have to oblige toward our nation. Create patriotism. Yes, of course, we get this whole feeling of that love for our nation. By these we understand that there are certain things that we have to do for our country. Guiding principles, yes, if someone is doing something, or if the government has to make some policy, they can look at these fundamental duties of the people as well. If you're planning to do something, you should keep these in mind as well. Now remove deficiency from the constitution, since they were not the part of the original constitution, but the constitution was amended and then these were enacted. These were also added, so they somehow removed the deficiency of the constitution. Non-controversial. In fundamental rights, we were having these a lot of viewpoints, that this is how it should be, this is how it should not be. But in fundamental duties, all of these 11 duties, you cannot have any controversy. Everyone will agree to this. I mean, who is going to say that let's not respect the ideals of the constitution? No matter what kind of ideology you believe, no matter what kind of country, what kind of party you follow, what's your caste or creed or religion or poor, rich, whatever you are, no one is going to have any kind of problem with these. Who is going to say that let's pollute the environment, let's not live in peace, let's just go for violence? Who's going to say that? And who's going to say that let's live in superstitions? And who has a problem with little children getting to school? No one. So these are controversial, non-controversial. Next is educative significance. They're very well. If you have read this point 11, we have really elaborated on that. Okay, before reaching to conclusion, we are first going to understand one important thing about them, and probably the only thing that can be said in their criticism is that they are non-enforceable, they're non-justiciable in nature, meaning that you cannot go to courts. If somebody is not following, he's not obligating his duty, you cannot go to court against him. Court cannot, just like in the case of fundamental rights, if there was a violation of your rights, you were able to go to the Supreme Court. But in this case, you cannot. But that doesn't mean that these are only paper exercise. A state, the government, can make a law to prohibit any act or condition or conduct in violation of any of the duties. The courts would uphold that as a reasonable restriction on the relevant fundamental right. This means that this enforceability is not actually given in the constitution, but the government can pass a law, certain law, and it can make sure it can prohibit some certain kind of act. I will give you an example. Certain kind of act or conduct in violation of any of the duty. That if you do this, this means that you are violating your duties, and we can impose restriction on this work of yours. And because we are imposing those restrictions, you cannot go to the court and say that your fundamental right. Let's just say there is this right that you have to denounce the derogatory traditions, derogating rituals, or some kind of things that are derogatory against women, and some person starts saying a lot kind of abusive language. Okay, the person uses abusive language, so he cannot go to the state can ban his speech, and then he cannot approach the court and say that my speech, I have this speech right, I can say whatever I want, please do not take me to courts. That is not possible, because you are violating your fundamental duty. For example, a person who burns a national flag, in violation of the duty article 51, cannot assert that it was burned by the way of demonstration against the government should be protected by the freedom of expression right. You can protest against the government, but cannot protest against the nation itself. Okay, you may see this in various protests. People protest against the government, the policies of the government. They're not against India. This is important here. So this is what is said, that you cannot go and burn the national flag. You're against the government, protest against the government. You do not have a right to burn the national flag. And if you, that is not one way of expression. You remember, we have a right to expression, but burning the national flag is no way of demonstrating anything. Okay, now we get to the last point, and this is the conclusion. For the enjoyment of valuable fundamental rights, if you want to enjoy your fundamental rights, you have to oblige some duties too, and you have to oblige them seriously. As a law-abiding citizen, we must realize we have certain duties toward the nation. Okay, and to achieve the objective of the part 4a, the part where these are given, that is national integrity and respect. Because as Salman said, Salman was some political thinker who said this, there can be no right without a corresponding duty. If you want to enjoy your right, you have to be ready to obligate the duties as well. Simply, if for the enjoyment of the valuable fundamental rights, one has to understand that the fundamental duties should be obligated seriously as well, because there cannot be a right without a corresponding duty. Revise it. I hope you will understand this, and I think I'm going to end the class here. See you in the next class. Thank you.